Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting for Bedford Township for October 15th. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, if Pastor Vince Filippo could come open us up in prayers with the Bedford Church of the Nazarene.
Just real quick, an 18-year-old died yesterday. Family grieves. Today, a friend of mine received a kidney. We celebrate. The same event. One family grieves. Another family celebrates. There's so many dilemmas in life, aren't there? Lord Jesus, we thank you for a community such as ours. We thank you that a variety of issues come across. And so many times, one grieves one issue and one celebrates one issue all at the same time. And we would just ask, oh God, that your presence would give peace and wisdom and guidance and direction on the issues that happen in our community. In your name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for being here. Okay, item number 2 is the approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda is submitted.
Support. Okay, motion supported by Mr. Clemens. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Clement?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Ms. Tinneberry? Aye. Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item number 3 is the consent agenda. The agenda committee recommends to approve and place on file the minutes of the October 1st, 2019 regular meeting of the Bedford Township Board. B, accept and place on file the general savings, pooled funds, and CD reports from the treasurer. C, approve and place on file the revenue, expense, report, and balance sheet for the period ending September 30th, 2019. D, appoint Dennis Kolar to the Capital Improvement Plan Committee.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support. Motion supported by Mr. Clemens. Discussion?
One thing, there's a typo in item 3B where it's the general savings. I think there was a page on your table tonight. There's a typo in the water fund amount. So you have the corrected one in your hand now.
Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Tinneberry? Aye. Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Item 4 is presentations. Update on the CIP committee. Mr. Dennis Jenkins, come on up.
Thank you. As you know, the board in September did approve the creation of the Capital Improvements Committee. It's an ad hoc committee made up of Paul Francis, Trudy Hirschberger, Ron Fritz from Planning, Barry Bushman, Mike Keene as a citizen member, and Dennis Kolar, the building official, now officially. We've had 2 meetings so far. First meeting was more organizational. We elected chair, or vice chair, and secretary, and we also discussed the process that we're going to be using through this whole project. October 9th meeting, we had a presentation by Fire Chief Adam Massengill, went through their capital improvements plan in detail. Still some other questions I might have, we might have. Next, we're planning on meeting with the park board and then the library regarding their future needs. And also, we thought it would be a good idea if the board members had a good hands-on idea of what condition the structures are in. Some of them are in very good condition, some of them probably aren't. So at a near future date, we're going to be inviting the board members, be an open meeting, to come along, tour all the existing buildings. It's a good idea to wear casual clothes because you could get dirty. We'll announce that probably after the meeting on the 23rd of October, the date and time. So, anybody have any questions? No?
I don't have questions, but I just want to thank you for update. Sometimes these things or committees get established and we don't hear from them again. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate the update, and I hope we will continue to have those updates as long as your committee is
Yeah, the plan is to try to have this done within 3 to 4 months.
good.
It's an aggressive schedule, but I think it's probably workable. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, item 5 is comments from the public. Comments limited to 2 minutes for board agenda items only. Come on up.
Good evening, Logan Tisdale, 1308 Brandywine Street, Temperance. In regard to 8E, you get 2 opportunities maybe to sell this tavern sign. I saw the sign. People collect those things. You might try at the BBA meeting that's coming up next year. Maybe have a silent auction kind of deal where people fill out a card, put the amount that they want to purchase it for, and then you just put an envelope and you close it. Or you could do it at the Monroe County Fair. You get a lot of people come through there, and you give a lot of people a shot at that. People collect that stuff, they put it in their basement or whatever, or maybe they'll just buy it and throw it in a garbage can, I don't know, but that might be a couple of things to do. Get it at the BBA meeting or do it at the county fair. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, moving on to staff reports. 6A, a sale of a 1999 Pierce heavy rescue truck for $40,000. Chief Massingill.
Good evening. The 1999 Pierce Heavy Rescue Truck has been a topic that we've discussed over the past few years as far as use or lack of use. Generally, we feel like it's an underutilized vehicle in that it only responds, I think it's left the station about 19 times this year and made it to the scene 4 times. So in the last 2-3 years, we've talked over and over again about the value versus the amount of money and the maintenance for a 20-year-old vehicle or coming up on a 20-year-old vehicle now. And at different periods within the last couple of years, we've reached out and tried to get a general idea of value on it if we were to try to sell it as we did with the 1996 brush truck. We were told repeatedly it would be in the $25,000 to $30,000 range when we sent it out to try and get some valuation on it. We thought that was a little low, although we still understood that at some point we would want to essentially get out from under a piece of apparatus that is underutilized by the department year in and year out. About a month ago, one of the brokers reached out to us. He'd known that we had looked at pricing, and there was a department out in Minnesota that had received a grant for a used heavy rescue truck, and it was exactly what they were looking for. Through the process of the last month, the department out there, we came to an offer of $40,000. Now that's for us. That doesn't include the broker fees, the shipping, the inspection fees, and things like that. We feel like that's a very fair price, especially being that they're going to cover broker fees and all the rest of it. And essentially, we would net the $40,000, which was much more than we had expected to when we sent out to get value on it. So with that, we reevaluated again in the officers' meetings earlier this week and are comfortable with the recommendation to the board that we accept that offer. Now, that offer is contingent on some inspections from the Pierce Service Center. So the vehicle is going to be looked at by Pierce representatives to make sure that, for peace of mind of the fire department in Minnesota, they wanted to make sure that there were no major mechanical issues that no one was aware of. We're essentially pretty comfortable that's not going to be the case, but we're waiting for that feedback to come back before there's a final determination. We did talk about as part of the capital improvement, and actually the heavy rescue is not a part of our capital improvement plan because we didn't have intention to replace it when we figured out, at the end of its life, we didn't have any intention to replace it with another heavy rescue or another vehicle like that. So it's not incorporated in the capital improvement plan. As we reevaluated the fleet this week and discussed options, whether we would need another vehicle or another apparatus. In looking ahead at our scheduled plan for replacement of another ambulance early next year, we've got, as part of our plan, budgeted for that. We're pretty comfortable that there's no need to increase the fleet at this time. to replace that vehicle. We're likely to start the bidding process for a new ambulance down the road. And as that was a planned purchase, we'll kind of incorporate that into our fleet plan.
I would assume that's part of their grant, that they have to get that inspected by a certified
I
mechanic.
would assume so as well.
Before they purchase it, but.
Yeah, my guess is, and like I said, we know it's a 20-year-old vehicle. We've kept up on it in the maintenance, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted to seriously consider this offer, was because it's nickel and diming us to the tune of a couple $1,000s here and there in maintenance.
Yeah.
So we're comfortable it's in good shape
Well,
now.
plus you're gonna have savings on insurance as well.
Sure.
So. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Ms. Tinberry?
I don't have a question, but I just want to say, you may not know this, but Walnut Grove, Minnesota is the home of the Laura Ingalls Wilder Museum, and I'm just thankful our truck is going there to protect that.
It's fantastic.
Anybody else? Do we need a motion? Look for a
I'll
motion?
make the motion.
Okay.
I move that we accept the offer of $40,000 from Walnut Grove, Minnesota Fire Department for the 1999 Pierce Heavy Rescue truck.
I'll support.
Okay, motion in support of Mr. Clemens. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Tinneberry?
Yes.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Item 7, unfinished business. Mr. 7A is update on township policies, section 5 and 6. Paul Francis?
As you, excuse me, as you recall, I handed out a couple of sections a board meeting or two ago, asking for comments on where we need to go with that. I received one response back that had some changes recommended. It's pretty heavy stuff. I just want to know where you want to proceed from here. Do we just have a special meeting at some point in time to discuss recommended changes to those, or go ahead with it, or what's your pleasure?
Ms. Tinberry?
I read through it, but I did not get back with Mr. Francis because I didn't know exactly what the protocol for going forward was, but I would prefer that there be a committee of the whole meeting for discussion because it's pretty in-depth.
Well, I actually have in my notes for us to schedule a committee of the whole to discuss the police millage, the fire millage, and our maintenance building. So, I mean, we could make that part of it, but I don't know if it'd be too lengthy. We should have a couple separate ones.
I think that's too varied to have all of that together in one.
Okay. Well,
Just my opinion.
could schedule a couple of them then.
Now, a lot of the phrases in those recommended policies from Michigan Township Association are in the statutes already that specify what duties are required for various office holders. So I guess it's an issue on, do we want to repeat that, or do we just want to refer to a section that has it in the code? I think it ought to be in there in some form so that whoever reads it, whether it be the next person in that office or even a member of the public, what are the responsibilities of the clerk? What are the responsibilities of the treasurer? It's all there in the manual, all laid out. So we need to be discussing it. I think having a committee of the whole meeting on it is a good idea. We've had several of those over the years, and I thought had been very fruitful for that, where we share ideas. They're a public meeting. There's not any attempt to hide anything. It's just that it's centered on a specific topic or two.
Mr.
I was just going to say that I turned in the information since it was pertaining to my department, and I did say that all of this is redundant to my statutory duties. I would just rather say, you know, refer to the state statutory duties rather than having all that included. It's already, the manual is already getting really thick to be putting in all the duties.
Good point. Good, very good point.
Mr. Steiner?
Yeah, and I was going to say pretty much the same thing that Ms. Hirschberger did. And I remember at some of the meetings we did have, we did talk about that. And it's not only being a redundant issue, just adding more to our policy manual, we should refer to the MTA or whatever the ruling comes from. Because one of the major issues that we pointed out, I don't know how many times in committee meetings, that if the township, Michigan Township Association or another rule changes and we don't make sure that ours changes, we're going to have a contradictory issue there. So we always should be referring to the actual place where the law comes from. And that keeps us clean from having two pieces of information that you have to worry about changing.
Yep. I agree 100%.
I mean, we do the same thing at our work. You take names out of things and you put titles and references or department references. You put names in, people leave the company, people go to different jobs, things like that, and then you're searching for something that's not there.
Okay, any more comments? Okay, seeing none, then Mr. Francis, why don't you send out some dates for committee of the whole, and we'll get something on the schedule.
Okay. I don't see that the meeting on those two items will be very lengthy, nowhere near as lengthy as talking about millages upcoming in the future years. So maybe we ought to either add it to that or have a special meeting and be a short one, because I don't see it being any longer than an hour. My guess. So,
I'm fine with either or. I think adding them both, like Ms. Tenberry said, would probably be a lengthy meeting. So
yeah,
I
it
think we're
would.
better off having two separate ones. Okay, moving on to new business. 8A, vouchers for payment. Ms. Hirschberger?
I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment. General fund in the amount of $729,077.88. Fire district, $53,550.63. Police fund, $109,812.61. Park fund, $9,279.18. Transit system fund, $17,564. Library fund, $10,023.65. Water revenue fund, $2,996.30. Mildred Avenue SAD, $446.25. Lewiston Estate SAD, $9,140.79. Downtown Development Authority, $3,081.09. Sewer O&M Fund, $30,967.62. Trust and Agency Fund, $3,511.25, for a grand total of $979,451.25.
support.
Supported by Mr. Francis. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Ms. Tinneberry?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8B, tentative land combination of parcel number 5802-225-006-00 and 5802-225-005-00, 1050 Feltus Road. Mr. Batlow, come on up. Appreciate you being here.
First, I'm going to address item B and item C, and shortly after that, we have some general things that I'd like to touch on tonight that are taking place at the state level, township level, and an additional concern of ours. Item B is a request for a combination restriction agreement to go forward on this particular property. It's two lots, two parcels, for the property owners to move forward to build a new utility building. Ordinance requires that these parcels be combined to do this. There's already a building on the second parcel. However, this was built a number of years ago prior to the procedures that we follow now. This would bring this more into compliance with our ordinance, and that's allowing us to move forward with this on Feltus Avenue for these people. There's a sample of the combination restriction agreement that we work with through the attorney's office.
What kind of a building, excuse me? What kind, I mean, it's not a house, is it?
No,
What
it
kind of a
isn't.
building?
On the second lot, there's an existing detached garage that was built a number of years ago, and they're looking to build a new utility building in the back of that lot. It's not a large enough lot to construct a home.
Mr. Steiner?
Mr. Madlow, just a quick clarification. You're talking about lot one and, another lot, second lot.
Mhm.
But yet, the drawing shows 3 actual lots, but 2 parcels.
Correct, that's the current, let me see here, let me make sure, grab my right memo.
Because it looks like parcel 1 is encompassing lots 7 and 8.
The home actually fits on lot 7 and 8. The the building, or detached garage, is on lot 9. So there are three lots, 2 tax IDs. And this would combine all 3 of these under 1 tax ID.
Okay, so you said the home is actually straddling those 2 lots?
Yeah, 7 and 8.
Are 7 and 8 already combined?
They are, the way it is set up right now.
Okay, so thank you for simplifying that. Yes, since it's combined, that's what I was getting to. Okay.
Yep.
Other than that, it's pretty straightforward.
Ms. Tinneberry?
I guess I do have another question. You said that Lot 9 could not be a buildable lot for a home, so it doesn't have enough frontage?
No.
So they would never be separated again once they're combined because?
No, unless, I'm sorry.
No,
Don't mean to
go ahead.
interrupt you. Probably the only way that would happen is if something disastrous would happen on the whole entire parcel, and then it would have to be completely reevaluated. And we don't hope for that in any shape or form. Tornado, storm front, or some fire, something like that.
But I mean, they couldn't divide out Lot 9 again because it doesn't have enough frontage for, okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Anybody else have any comments or questions? If none, I look for a motion.
Mr. Supervisor, I make a motion to approve the land division combination request of the platted property at 1050 Feldis Road, Temperance, Michigan, which consists of 2 separate parcels. And the parcel numbers are 58-0225-006-00 and parcel number 58-0225-005-00 as presented.
Support. Motion and supported by Mr. Clemens. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Tinneberry?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Item 8C, land division of parcel number 5802-029-058-00 and creation of new parcel 5802-029-058-05, 2980 West Stearns. Mr. Matlow?
Yes. Excuse me. At the end of the day, during our review process, we found a typo and an error that was brought to our attention. We've made an adjustment. I'm going to hand you this, I'm going to pass this out. Please take one. This is with the correct parcel number.
Thank you, sir.
The highlighted pink area is the correct parcel number. The highlighted area in pink is the parcel that is created. We have to put this on the roll. With this particular parcel, it's a land division that took place. It was created, land division took place, the creation of a parcel with a home was sold off. This particular piece was attached to the dark green area, or probably gray on the one you have in the green area. Because of a death and the settlement of an estate, the bank is not recognizing the land division that took place several years ago. With that, in knowing that, we've worked with the attorneys to make a viable solution at this time. We would have turned this property back over to the property owner, but he's no longer here. With this particular parcel, there's still some things going on around it where residents are trying to figure out where they want to go with this. They're dealing with mortgage companies. So as of right now, I'm bringing this to the board's attention, and what we're looking to place on this at this time is a non-conforming, non-buildable lot, open for future land division distribution, which means once these individuals have the funding with their lending institutions and figure out where they would like to go with this, we would be more than willing to work with them, and those criteria would have to be met and fulfilled to move forward. This is an unusual circumstance, but as of right now, this appears to be the best resolution that all parties can get.
Ms. Tinderberry?
Where's the frontage?
On this particular 4.9 that's being created, the frontage is to your far right. It's only approximately 44.66 feet on this parcel. That's why we're putting these labels on this. It gives us a depth ratio of actually 22.17, which is substantial. And I can't come to the board asking you to approve that the way it is right now.
Well, how can we approve
Well,
44?
as far as a general standard land division, I don't think I could come to you for that. In this particular case, this is what we're having to deal with, and I'm bringing it to your attention.
But my question is, at 44 feet, that's not enough for a buildable lot either.
No.
So how is he going to get, or whoever?
He's going to have to work with the property owner to the west to determine what they want to do. The current owner of this is to the far east, or towards your right here. That's parcel 5802-029-059-10. There's still some ongoing foreclosure issues with the green parcel, and I think all parties are looking at that as well. And as right now, there's still some movement on these properties that we'll probably have to address in the future.
What's the frontage on the green parcel?
The green parcel is approximately 100 foot.
Okay, because I see the 139, but I didn't see the 100.
Yeah. The 139 is the property owner's existing frontage.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Graham?
if I could speak, our office has been involved with this for quite some time. And I would just say that I think the main thing the board needs to do, right, Alan, is that they need to approve the excessive depth to width ratio. That's what's needed here to allow this division to have its own tax parcel. Now, I would just say to you that we would never come to the board and ask for a new creation of a parcel like this. Never. The depth to width ratio is way too much. But what's happened here is there's been a foreclosure of a portion of the property. I don't know if it's the green or what, mine is colored, but it's the front portion on the right side of those two prongs. And because of that, and that's why we have these land division agreements that we came up with, these combination agreements, and why we take we go to such trouble to make sure that the mortgage coincides with the property ownership. Because in a case like this, the mortgage was on part of the property instead of all of the property, which, if you will, created a division that we didn't ask for, if that makes any sense to you. And because of that, this is what we have. Now we have this parcel. It's not buildable. It has, as Nancy was pointing out, it has this small amount of frontage. Nobody's asking to build on it. But the problem is, the bank is selling the front parcel, the mortgage foreclosed parcel, that needs its own tax number. It just has to be. And because of that, the rest of the property, the part that you see in pink, that has to have its own tax number too. So it's splitting properties into two tax numbers to reflect the reality of the two separated parcels caused by the mortgage foreclosure, if this makes sense to you. And then like it, well, the mortgage, Nancy, was only on that front part. It wasn't on the whole parcel owned by the original owner. And as a result, the worst thing that could happen would be a foreclosure, and that did happen. But they could only foreclose on the portion that they have a mortgage on, which is the front part of it. But that property was all part of one tax description, tax parcel. So we have to deal with the reality, and I've been advising Alan in this, that we have to give a tax number to that parcel in the back.
Why?
Because it's a separate it's a separate parcel right now, and it's owned by a different party.
And we have to tax, it has to go on the roll. It is on the roll.
Okay,
It has
that's
to.
the answer. right
We
there.
have no choice but to do
So
that.
we haven't been taxing it?
Oh,
Yeah, we have been
we have
taxing, it's been part of one tax parcel, including the part that's been foreclosed. But now that that foreclosure is taking place, we really need to create two tax parcels out of one. And so again, to go back to why it's here, I believe is the main function is this excessive depth to width ratio that the land division ordinance requires the township board to approve.
So if we approve this, we're not approving a separate buildable lot.
No,
We're giving a tax ID number to a non-conforming lot or something.
yeah, we are, and Nancy, we would normally not do that. We would normally not do that, but if we don't do something, we're not taxing it. And you know, we have to
That's the-
tax it.
The other piece here is the owner that owned this property has passed away, and if he hadn't have passed away with the process of foreclosure, we would be dealing with different steps to correct this.
And just to go one step further, I believe, and Alan was kind of flirting with this, I believe what's going to happen here is that this parcel is going to end up being combined with adjacent parcels. Once the property owners on the east and the west figure this out, I think that there will be a division of the land, and it'll be combined, and then we will get rid of this tax parcel number that we are creating. But for the time being, while that parcel's there, in order to perform our statutory function of assessing and taxing, it has to have a number. And it's not fair to hold up the other parcel that's going to be foreclosed, sold to some other party, that has a house on it. They have to have separate tax parcels. Again, we would not do this ordinarily, but in this case, with a mortgage foreclosure, it was sort of foisted upon us.
I just want to be sure that this other 4.9 acres isn't sold and allowed to be built on because it just doesn't have the frontage. But no, I
Yeah, it's-
understand, and we do have to tax it, so I'm good.
And with your vote, that is going to be put on the record card for that parcel. It's going to have to be resolved. And it's not something that, a practice that we like to go through by any means. This has been very difficult for all parties. And like Tom said, I do believe that the party to the east and to the west they have something in the works. The one term that came up is we're waiting for lower interest rates. So we'll
Okay,
see.
thank you.
Okay, any more questions for Mr. Allen or Mr. Graham? Seeing none, I look for a motion.
Could I request that our legal counsel word the motion so that we get all the Ts crossed and Is dotted?
Actually, I think the motion, and Alan, you correct me, the only motion we need here is to because the actual splitting and creation of the tax parcel is up to our assessor. I think what we really need officially here is the township board to approve the excessive depth to width ratio on the new tax parcel to be created as shown on this drawing. Isn't that what we need, Alan?
Correct, correct. And they,
So if we could just incorporate that as a motion, I think that would be.
So moved.
Support. Motion supported by Mr. Clemens. Discussion?
Is
Okay with
there,
that, Nancy?
I will be.
I,
After I go home and go to bed tonight and wake up in the morning, I'll be fine.
that's kind of what I thought, how it would go. How does that go about? What I mean is like these splitting, I assumed if this went through, then that's what it would be. It would be they'd be splitting up those adjacent property, or with the adjacent properties. Is there, unless it's a super long explanation, I was just like, where does it go from, you know what I mean? Where does it go from there of how, like, are we just keeping our fingers crossed that that's how it's gonna work out, or?
I think we are keeping our fingers crossed that that's what happens. But again, to get back to it, we hope that's what happens, because what good is it to have a parcel of property that can't be built on? I mean, what value is it to anyone, the township or any property owner? And it just so happens that the property owner that owns it right now is one of the two adjacent property owners. So step one has been created. We just don't know what's going to happen with step two. Now, it is sort of a fingers crossed thing, but the reality is until that happens, we have to tax it. We have to assess it and tax it. And there's only one way to do that, and that's to give it its own tax parcel number. And that's what we're doing. The assessor's doing that. But to do that, he wants there to be board approval for this parcel to have this excessive depth to width ratio, which again, I will say it, we would not, we would never endorse someone coming in and wanting to create this parcel new. It's just that the parcel is there.
Could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Tinnevery?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Thank you, Alan, for being there. Go ahead, go ahead. You
we have
can,
a couple other general items that weren't on here, but one is something that's taking place in the state. I'm wanting the board to be informed of this. Currently, there's about 1,600 assessors in the state of Michigan in different capacities across the state. The average age of the assessors is 60. There's multiple levels or certifications. Primarily, everyone's really familiar with 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's the way I'm going to break this down. In the state of Michigan, for level 4s, the average age is 63 years of age. For a level 3, the average age is 53. For a level 2 is between 42 and 43. And the MCAT, or level 1, the average age and the age that someone is getting into assessing is age 41. Looking at that average age of 60, we all know what starts to happen as people progress closer to 62, 65, and 67. So that's an indication of the world is changing, just like the trades needing people, trucking needing people, and teaching needing people. We still need people in assessing and also people to be involved with our local government, state, and county. I just wanted to touch that with you. The other feat or thing that I have to bring to your attention tonight, and it's actually item 9 or F down here, is regards to the computer server. This last several weeks, we've been getting some warnings to our system, and we're at a point. They've made cleared up some additional space, but we're reaching a point where we are not going to be able to calculate residential or commercial industry and agricultural properties with the software we have because of the limited space on our server and where it's at right now, which we need to do our job. So I'm just bringing that to everyone's attention there. The next issue here is something that I don't really like bringing up, but we've had to move forward. This is Pete Carey, or the Pete, who's been our field representative for over a year now. Pete is going in for knee replacement. We've been working with him for several months, hoping that it would get better, and everything that he's tried is not working. He came in to us on Friday and said, I'm having surgery November 1st. We've done some scrambling to put something together to make sure that we get from here until the end of January and get our field information and calculations together to wrap up our role. The individual that I've covered this with Paul, he asked me if somebody who's a go-getter, who we can depend on, who shows a good interest. The individual that I've asked to come in is actually Trey Clemens. He's been working with us since Monday. I shot an email out to everybody to show what we're doing. This is, we're working with him. It's kind of a transitional period from Pete to Trey, and when Pete comes back, Trey will turn it back over to him. This is just a temporary position. Pete has made it very clear if he cannot do the job, he is going to give us plenty of warning, and if we get that notice from him, we are going to open it up, position up, and follow the procedures that the township would like into place for a part-time person. We are at a critical time in the last 3 to 4 weeks. We have been bombarded inundated with all kinds of land divisions, state reports. Things have been pretty crazy. Things are moving. A lot of crazy things right now. But the one thing being out in this field this last week, speaking with a number of the builders, they're having problems with trade people. They're having problems getting concrete. The one individual I spoke with yesterday told me he's 2 months behind where he should be. That's not good for our builders and the development moving forward for the township. If you have any questions, please ask. We're bringing this to your attention because we're trying to move forward and get this role done. Teresa, who is taking the level 2 right now, has 1/3 of the way to go. She will be finished with that approximately January 6th or 7th, hopefully. That'll be wrapped up for her. And we've been trying some new things. They're working. They're moving on. We were hoping to get Pete through this, and he could have been downtime through the board review. We couldn't get that far, and that's where we're at. As of this point, Trey is doing a phenomenal job, very respectful of the community, very sharp young man, and that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Alan. We appreciate it. Ms. Stenberg?
Who's doing the training?
He's working with myself. He's going to be working with Christine, and we're going to be following him through every week while he's here. We're not going to just throw him out there and feed him to the wolves.
Does he have background in?
He's spent some time with the manuals. He's spent some time out in the field with us. He's got a good head on his shoulder.
Oh, I don't doubt that. I'm just asking because he's picking up at a critical time, and someone who's a novice may have a difficult time with that. But I don't have any problems. I know I'm usually the objector, but I'm not objecting to anything. I was just asking questions.
Yeah, he's a good kid.
Uh-oh.
He is, Dad.
Okay. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Have a good night, Coach.
Okay. Moving on to 8D, tentative preliminary plat approval for Village Meadows subdivision, plat 5 and 6. Ms. Tenaveri, did you want to
Oh, sure.
speak to that one?
Sure. Well, as it says, this is tentative preliminary plat approval. The applicant came to the Planning Commission on September 25th, and the Planning Commission approved it. So if I may go forward and make the motion, and then can have the discussion if you like. I'd like to give tentative preliminary plat approval for Village Meadow plats 5 and 6 on parcel number 5802 014 067 02, located on Tempance Road, east of Lewis Avenue, conditioned upon addressing any and all issues outlined in the MCRC, MCDC, and Manikin Smith Group, and the Bedford Township Fire Department letters. And a permit must be obtained from EGLE, EGLE, prior to the final preliminary plat approval.
A second.
Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Clemens. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Tinnevery?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Okay, item 8E, how to proceed with the sale of the Michigan Tavern sign from 6602 Jackman Road. I brought this here today to decide if the township wants to sell it or wants to keep it. We've had a lot of inquiries from the community about purchasing it. We've had some good ideas about how we can go about it. I don't know legally how many ways, if we could put it on eBay and, you know, let the community bid on it through eBay, and, you know, more likely a local bidder would probably get it, or if we want to just do sealed bids and they bring them to the clerk's department and we open them. I think we would probably see a little more money, putting it to where there's a bid process and people could keep bidding higher and higher and higher. You know, but what's your thoughts, Mr. Steiner?
Well, I was thinking that's probably the way to get the most money, but the quickest thing I would do is defer to Mr. Graham, say, what can we legally do?
Well, I don't think there's anything that is restricting you legally, okay, in the sale of an asset like this. All I would say is, you know, to many, it would have little or no value, but to some, apparently it has a value. We've completed the purchase of the property. The township owns it. That means the township owns everything on that property, and the sign came with the purchase, so it's now a township asset. And whereas I might look at it and say, what value is there? Apparently there are others that have value. So you want to sell it in a responsible way. Of course, you should try to get the most money that you can. And I would not say that you're restricted to any particular way or another on a sale like this, okay? But, and I don't know if the clerk, I don't know if she's willing to do a bid process like this, you know, and go through all of that, or whether just putting it on eBay. So I'd say you could do either one, because I would assume this is not worth, you know, tons of money. But then again, apparently there's value out there. And if there weren't value, you wouldn't have interest, and there is interest, so
Mr. Steiner?
So then that would be my suggestion, is to put it up on an eBay or Craigslist or somewhere like that, take the bids, set the time frame for, say, 1 month, or if there's no activity after a 5-day period, go ahead at that point, take it down and call it a day.
Do we want to put a minimum bid on it, or if we do put it up, say $100 minimum bid or something like that?
You could. I mean, I think you said somebody had made an offer before, just driving by.
We've just had,
And
we
we-
had 10 inquiries about it.
Right, so, yeah, you could put a minimum on there, I don't know why not.
Any more thoughts? Trudy, do you see any issue with an eBay process, or would you rather see sealed bids coming? I mean, you typically deal
I
with
mean,
this
I would
stuff,
have to deal with it. I'd have to set up an eBay account. We'd have to deal with shipping. If somebody buys it somewhere else, we'd have to make sure that we said that they're paying the shipping. I mean, I guess either way is okay. I'm good with whatever the board wants to do, but remember, I'm gonna have to set up an account. I don't know.
So when there's I don't know how eBay works. I just learned how to use a cell phone. But does
There's
this,
a crank on it, doesn't it?
so I can remember party lines. So if you do use eBay, does that mean it goes out to the whole world? Is that how that works?
And the reason we were thinking that is somebody that used to live here, used to go there, lives in another state, could potentially see it and say, oh, you know, I want that.
So maybe if you did the bid process, you wouldn't have that problem with the selling, the transmittal, the transportation and all of that. I don't know.
Mr. Clements?
I was going to say, just so you know, when you sell an item, you can set the boundaries geographically. as to where you will accept. You can also stipulate that the buyer has to
Come and
provide
get it.
shipping.
Yeah.
You could put a $500 shipping expense on it to make sure you cover, but, so you're in control.
I would
We can
almost
completely fit
say-
all the terms.
Yeah, I'd almost say they'd have to come and pick it up.
Oh, yeah.
Can do that.
Ms. Tinderberry?
I got lost in that, hang on a minute. Oh, are you planning on selling other things? Like things outside the inside of the place, or?
There's not much of value in them. I mean, there's
Well, I didn't think
there's
the sign is
a
of
fuel,
value, so.
there's a fuel tank in the basement of the house that's in really good condition. There's,
No, I'm thinking of the bar area and the,
we're gonna walk through it one more time. I didn't see anything. It's pretty well trashed in there. I guess there was a Miller Lite sign. I don't know if the
There's
bar is
some
salvageable. I mean, anything we can get out of there, is better, so we don't have to, pay to, I thought maybe if we wanted, we could get a dumpster over there and have maintenance people get rid of some of the things now, like the pool table and,
I'm just saying, I'm not in favor of starting an eBay thing for anything that, have you thought about taking the sign and putting it in the middle of the roundabout? Calling it a Michigan Tavern Roundabout? It's a suggestion, you asked for suggestions.
Is that a motion?
we're gonna run power to it,
A monument sign.
a monument sign.
We could do
Searchberger?
that. I was just gonna say, if we're gonna make a motion to sell the sign, can we have one motion that says we can sell anything in there that we find that?
Yeah.
Because I've had a lot of calls from people saying, if there's anything in there, I would like to buy it. There's sentimental value to them because they went there, some people. There's some people that said, oh, our band used to play in there, and so there's sentimental value in that. The other thought I have on selling is we can put this stuff on our website, on Facebook, and they could just submit bids to me. They could email me bids. They don't have to be sealed.
That goes all over the country, doesn't it? I mean, people,
Just another
Somebody
thought.
They gotta stumble upon it at that point, but
No, Facebook.
Facebook. Mr. Montre?
If we, like, say we start auctioning this stuff off, or if we're just auctioning just the sign off, are we allowed to, like, how restricted are we into where we're allowed to put that money? Like, is that just wherever, or, like, I would think if
Think
you're
go into general.
auctioning things like that off, I feel like you're gonna get higher auctions if, like, community members know it's going to the parks, or it's going to, like, something specific.
You'd have
But
to
I
go
don't
in our
know.
general
Have to
fund.
go to general.
I think it's going to the general fund.
And then you would go,
The general fund paid
Wherever.
for the property, I think it's gonna go to the general fund.
And we can say something, that we can dedicate more money through budget time to the parks,
that's not encouraging, yeah.
Mr. Steiner?
Trudy, if you put it on our website, is there a way that you can just put the text in what the current bid is today? Right below it, say
Yeah,
here's,
there's no reason why.
so right there, if we put it up for a certain
That's a
time
good
frame,
idea.
at the end of each day, say, here's the current bid, the bids are open until this date and last bidder,
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
not a problem at all.
It's a good
that'll
idea.
make it a lot simpler.
Then people at least know they can keep bidding. That's a good
Right.
idea.
I was gonna suggest that, and then we replicate the same thing on the township Facebook page for informational purposes. That way, if somebody wants to share it outside of Bedford Township, largely, it's simple.
Ms. Tinderberry?
I agree with, what Trudy brought up, but if you do sell other things out of there, can the board just be made aware?
I would think the fuel tank would be, desirable to somebody that uses fuel on their property, a farmer or something like that. But
We could just send out a mass email after we do the walkthrough and say, these are the things we found that
Yeah.
we're gonna try and sell. Then the board members would know what's gonna be out there.
Okay.
Do we need a motion
I don't know
to
if we-
sell this?
I'll go ahead and make the motion that we authorize the clerk to post the sign on our website, which can also be posted on the Facebook informational page only. The current bid amount will be updated daily. And before I get to the other items, what kind of time frame do we want to? Do we want to say 1 month, 3 weeks, 2 weeks? What do we want to do with that? I don't want you to have to be ongoing doing this forever.
I would think each piece maybe a couple weeks at
Okay,
the
so-
most. I wouldn't go
Okay.
much
We're doing
further
bids
than
right
that.
now to tear the place
Right,
down.
okay, so let's just say 14 days from post date or non-activity for 3 days or more. And then this would also include any other items as identified during walkthroughs that could potentially be sold.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported by Ms. Tinnevery. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Tinnevery?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Item 8F, purchase of a computer server for Township Hall. Ms. Hirschberger?
Before you, I submitted the 2 bids options that we received from IT Right. As of this posting, this was a necessity because I don't know if you remember during budget time, I said that IT Right, when they did their walkthrough, the server was getting older, it was running out of space, we would probably need to update in the near future. That time has come. Like Alan said, he's been getting errors saying that they can't go any further, they can't, let's see, the last error said that the server was unable to process your request, there is not enough space, you will not be able to calculate residential buildings, commercial buildings, industrial buildings, or agricultural buildings until this is fixed. My suggestion is option 2. I've checked with Dennis Jenkins, he went over these prices too. I went online, I put their quotes in a couple different locations to see if the prices were compatible prices. They are. They're actually lower than what I could find online for everything that they're including on the server. The biggest thing is the email, the option 1, we would have to exchange our email. Option 2 would hold our emails. And like I said on the front, option 1 would end up costing us more than option 2 within about 3 years.
I support that motion.
The only thing I wanted to say, we did have a local company reach out wanting to bid on this. I would just think for anything in the future, we need to find out, one, if our contract with IT Right allows us to. We need to know that if we have services, a lot of services within our township that we don't put out for bid because we have a contract in place, with different entities, so that, and, I understand the time constraints right now is crucial because we can't put stuff on the server. Any more discussion?
Just one quick comment. Trudy, if you could look into what it would take down the road, because again, eventually you're gonna fill these servers up, but what could we do to, at minimum with the emails, to archive them into another unit so they could be moved off the main server to free up space, but they're not gone because you'll still need to keep those as records,
I
but
would-
being able to archive it off.
I would like to educate our employees on deleting emails that are not needed or used, that don't need to be saved. And then as far as correspondence, we can get rid of those after a year. They don't have to keep correspondence after a year. So that would be more emails that could free up some of our server.
And then within Outlook, there is an archiving part. If you teach people how to turn on archiving,
Correct,
that will also help.
yes.
That's all.
Any more discussion?
We had
Mr.
this.
Clements?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just that this is budgeted. I was just curious if there's anything else like foreseeable expenses for IT that we would, like, we're using our, like, the bulk of the capital outlay budget. I was just like curious if is there anything else that's foreseeable on that, or,
No, we did budget for the server knowing that,
so that
We're
was
gonna
mainly,
low.
so that
Right.
budget, okay.
right.
My only was going to ask if IT Right had the capacity to flag our servers so that as we approach 60%, 70%, whatever that capacity threshold is, that we be notified so that in the future, it doesn't get emergent and we don't, experience a problem that would mitigate having to make a decision this quickly.
Right, this one should, the last server we purchased was in 2003. We added space in that one in 2007. So they do last, normally a server will go 4 years. This one has lasted us longer than that. So I'm foreseeing this new updated server lasting us at least another 7 years, but that is something that I can definitely tell IT Right to do for us.
Cool, thank you.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, can you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Ms. Tinnevery?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Number 9, comments from the public. Comments limited to 5 minutes. Come on up.
Good evening again, Logan Tisdale. I think you made a good decision on the sign. I think you need to put a picture of it on the website if you can, on both sides. You need to put a description of it, whether it's hand painted or not, and if it's manufactured by somebody. You never know, the beer signs go, if you look online, the beer signs go crazy, especially the ones from England and stuff that are hand painted. So you have no idea what that thing is worth until somebody starts bidding on it. I think you ought to put a minimum bid on it, though. I think you ought to start off at least $300 anyway, minimum. So that way you get people that are not bidding $25, $50, $100 and stuff like that. So it does have value, and it might have a maker's name on it, and you don't know how old it is. I mean, I've been here since '82. I think Michigan Tavern's been around quite a while before that. I'm not really sure. So they've been here a long time. So signs like that, and if it's operable, if it's got lighting and stuff like that, you ought to put that. It has wiring, and it still looks like it could probably be rewired, because somebody's going to put that in their basement, I guarantee, or in a bar. So they do have value, and you shouldn't get rid of it. If you put that out in the street, it'd be gone. So don't let it go too cheap and stuff. That's a nice sign. I've seen it and stuff. So put a nice picture in the thing there, and I think you'll get a lot of good bids on it. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you for your comments. Any
Was
more
that
comments?
was that your bid, 300?
300 opening bid.
That was the opening bid.
Any more comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, to comments from township board members. Mr. Montry?
I just want to say I appreciate Dennis Jenkins giving us a quick update on the CIP. That's definitely appreciated. That's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Clemens?
2 things. One is, in my experience in government, it's rare that we get more for something than we thought we were. So I wanted to say congratulations to Chief Massengill for being able to arrange that if the sale goes through and everything is as successful as it can be. Also, to follow up on the IT, this week had a discussion with 2 people about ransom of business data here within our own community. And I just wanted to ask, and Trudy, you may already be doing it, but if we're not, if IT Right could advise us on a security assessment and a penetration test for vulnerability. It's something I'm going to look at for our business as well. It's just amazing how prevalent that is. And as good as you think your security is, sometimes you find it's not quite what you thought it was. Other than that, thank you.
Ms. Tinnever?
I just want to thank our students for being here tonight and taking the time to come out and sit through. I know it's part of your grade or something, and you were forced to be here, but I'm happy to see young faces, because we need young people being more and more involved in their community and in their government and learning how the different governments work. So thank you for coming, and you can come back anytime. You picked a good night because it was only an hour, so thank you. That's it.
Mr. Steiner?
Again, kudos to the chief and the team on the advisory committee that with this sale of this fire truck, you just continue to progress with thinking and doing the right things for our department, and I commend you and the entire team to do that. One thing everybody needs to remember, we look outside, it's getting darker, it's that time of year, darker at night, darker in the mornings. We've got school full session, buses out there, kids walking all over. And before we have another meeting, we've got Halloween coming up. Time to be extremely careful for the kids. And as we heard the pastor this evening, a young person passed away, another one received a kidney. But we don't want to see those things happen by total accident. So please be cognizant of the awareness of kids running around. Kids don't always pay attention. We all know that, especially the littler ones. That's all I have.
Mr. Francis?
You and I have talked a few times about the need for board discussion, maybe at a special meeting, committee of the whole meeting, regarding millages that are coming up. We need to be aware of what those are. The police millage is 0.4 mils, and the last collection of that is December this year, 2 months from now. So we will need to renew that or increase it, or at least make some determination, probably by March. We would want to get that on the August primary, I would assume. Then that's December 2019. The fire millage, which is a 1 mil operating mill, that expires December 20, 1 year from now. So we need to be talking about that. And it's a 1 year, it's a 1 mil levy at this point in time. I think most of you are aware that we have 4 full-time employees that are funded through a grant on a reducing scale over 3 years. But when that grant is gone, we need a decision. Do we want to keep those individuals or not? Keep the level of service that people have become accustomed to? I think we don't want to go backwards, but that's $400,000 to $500,000 for that. That's a $500,000, an increase, and that we may need more than that. So those kinds of issues are on my mind, and I think ought to be on all of our minds to talk about where we want to go in the future with those two. Right now we pay about $1.2 million for law enforcement. We have $450,000 roughly coming in from the millage, which is 0.4, and we pay $750,000 out of the general fund to reach that $1.2 million. Do we want to keep funding it that way, where we split it, or do we want to pull the general fund out and put it in with the millage and go for a larger millage just for that? A lot of issues to talk about. We need to talk about as a board, not just one person crunching some numbers. So be thinking about that, and we need to get at it, because we have to have a decision on the police millage and language in place by probably March. Am I in the ballpark on the approximate date? We don't want to miss it. So be thinking about that, and let me know when you think it'd be a good idea or a good time to meet.
Ms. Hirschberger?
A couple things I handed out from our Communication Media Commission, the accomplishments so far since this group was put together. There are 14 items on the list. I will have this on the website so the residents will be able to see the accomplishments. We will also be putting it out in the next newsletter, but we wanted the board to see this first. Reminder, Rick mentioned it, Halloween is Thursday, October 31st from 6 to 8. Be aware of the kids running in and out of the streets. They don't watch, they just run from house to house. And just a reminder, we've gotten plenty of phone calls and emails. Bedford Township does not have a November election this year. Our first election will be in 2020, and that'll be March 10th, the presidential primary, but there is no election in November this year. That's all I have.
Okay. Few things. Just to remind the community that Mulch King accepts your brush, your grass, your leaves, your debris for free. We contract with them to make it free for the residents, to encourage you not to burn. Just wanted to remind everybody, we do have that free service with Mulch King. They're located on Smith Road in between Lewis and Telegraph on the north side of the road. So utilize it, use it, we pay for it. So a lot of people do. I did want to touch on the roundabout that we are getting specs right now for asbestos removal and to remove the buildings. We want to get that done as soon as possible. So once we get the bids, we'll bring them to the board. But we want to make that site safe. So got some hazards out there, and we want to get it taken care of as soon as possible. Maintenance building is definitely one of the topics that I think we need to discuss at the committee of the whole. So Mr. Francis, when you send out your committee of the whole notice for your 2 items, why don't you just send out another one, and we can discuss it at the same time and get them both done. Touching on safety and kids crossing streets, that's why I'm so excited about the grant that was being done right now in downtown Temperance, because we do have crosswalks now, safe crosswalks for people. Same thing in downtown Lambertville, and we'll be looking for a grant here in the next 3 weeks to put traffic signals at both entrances of Quail Hollow. So we continue to make our downtown areas safer and more walkable. And they touched on assessing. And I did want to touch on, let the community know when you have an emergency call from the fire department and your door gets kicked down or something happens minor in your home, that's something that's got to be covered by your insurance. We've gotten calls, because something was damaged. When an emergency call happens, and there is damage, that's something you have to claim on your insurance. So I just want the community to know that, the township isn't responsible, for damages. So I just wanted to touch on. Chief, am I wrong in saying that? Pretty spot on in saying that. So it is in our policy. So I just wanted to remind everybody. So other than that, if anybody has any comments, none, we stand adjourned.